Right, morning guys. So we're going to take a break from welding on the Dodge stuff for a majority of the day anyway. Hopefully we can get this done in one day. So I'm about to strip a couple bits off this. I'm just going to take the hood sides off, while leave the tops. So I'm going to lift them up and pull the pin out and then take them away. Just it'll make it a bit easier to work on. And then I'm going to bolt down a few things. I'm going to drain the oil out of the sump and start pouring the proper oil in it. And I'll start putting the dip ball in, and I'll clear a bit of stuff out of the inside of the car. Just pop some stuff out of the road in the meantime. And put the bolts in the back of the block, they bolt down to the chassis. I'll slip the battery in. Just start doing a few bits and pieces like that before my father turns up, which is probably going to be, I don't know whether you'll be here, so 8ish, 9 o'clock, somewhere around out there. And then we'll bust into it, and hopefully hopefully by the end of the day, mid-afternoon sometime, by the time we've been through all the bits and pieces and make sure everything's working properly, we'll fire the thing up. We'll see how that gets on. But yeah, so that's the plan today. We hope to have this running before the end of the day. And as long as we don't have any, obviously, water leaks or oil leaks or fuel leaks or anything like that, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we'll get into it. Right, I'll give you a bit of a rundown what we've been doing. I haven't really videoed anything per se, so we just run it, turn it over by starter without the plugs in it to try and see if we've got oil pressure, because we haven't got the pressure gauge hooked up. We just want to make sure there's oil at the pump, but we think we're going to have to get a little oil can and prime the pump, because it's got to drag it up from the sump. So like, even though you do fall down through here, it's not actually going direct into the pump. So Dad's going to go try and see if he's got an oil can that we can get in there and just squirt some oil in through the gauge line that we haven't hooked up yet. We lifted the motor slightly at the front, so we could, if we ever need to get a crank handle in there, we can. So it was very close to the bottom before. We put 2 heavy washers under each bolt at the front. There's 4 of them. So we just kicked the motor up a little bit. Basically, we've gone through and we've just hooked all the wiring up that we need to start it. We've filled all the oils up. We need more oil for the diff. That's not a biggie. We've got 5 litres of oil in here at the moment. It needs more, but all we basically want to do is just get it run, get the oil pumped up through to here, make sure we've got oil pressure, and then we'll check the oil and we'll top it up. And we might even just, when we fire it, at least we can have, once it's got a bit of oil, run for, even if it's for half a minute, then we can double check the oil, make sure it says there's plenty on the dipstick. So yeah, what else? So yeah, it's really got the battery in there. That was a bit of a pig to get in. We had to pull, we had to push the with a broom handle on the brake rod to get it over far enough so we could slip the battery in. So that's going to be a nightmare if you ever have to change it. We had to loosen off the starter switch, because when we lift the motor, you had to jiggle that around a little bit. I've been farting around, really just with wiring, just making sure everything's bolted the motor on properly. Just stuff like that, really. Yeah, and just top the fluids up, muck around. So yeah, we're basically ready to start. I need to get some water to put in here. So we're just going to run it with some water in it for a start off, and then we're going to dump the water out of it and then retop it up. We just want to flush the system because the motor's been together for a while, for quite a long time. So if we can give it a bit of a run with some water in it, get everything swished around, and hopefully we can, if there's any crap in the system, we can get that out, and then we can fill it full of coolant. It takes 15.5 litres of coolant, apparently, according to the book. So yeah, it's about where we're at, and we've just got it jacked up so we can, at least once we get it run, we can, we can run the gearbox and get the diff working. We're not going to run it very much because we've only got about a litre of oil in there. We read somewhere, not 100% sure where, but we found an oil capacity for the diff in the gearbox, and we just, for some reason, the information was wrong. So we're going to get another. Probably it needs at least another 2, but we're going to get 3 litres to just in case, because it's a pretty big diff housing, so it'll hold a bit. And then at some point we'll have to go around. Everything is pre-greased within reason, but we'll have to go through and just, before we do start driving it and running it around, we'll go around and just give everything a few pumps of grease at some point. With all the pins and all that stuff, because they've all got copper coat and all that sort of stuff, but they haven't been greased properly. So we'll do that at some point too. So yeah, and we'll give it a wee shot of grease in the back of the starter and crap like that. So yeah, we're pretty close. We'll have to prime this too. We haven't put any fuel in the car yet at all, but I think we've got 10 litres there to throw in it. I think it's half full. Oh, that might be close to full. Is that 10 litres? This is 5 gallons, so it might be 20 litres in there. So we've got 20 litres of fuel we can put in it, and we can let it run for a while. Put it through the motions, let everything get hot. Give it a couple of good heat cycles to the type thing, make sure it is right. Make sure we've got no oil leaks, or if we do have oil leaks, it's not major, and that shit. So yeah, it's kind of where we're at. But anyway, so yeah, we're just trying to, we need an oil can to get to prime the pump. We were short 2 copper washers for the plugs, because I had 2 of them. I've had the 4 of them tight and 2 of them loose, because I just went around and just double checked a lot of things just to make sure, just in case, because I knew there was things that, little bits and pieces we had to do. But yeah, I just, when I checked those, I remembered that they were short 2 washers, and just little things like that we hadn't had a chance to come back to them. When you're doing all these other things, you sort of forget about until you come back to it. So we should have it fired up after lunch. All things going well. So yeah, we've just been mucking around with a bit of stuff. We realised that the drive on this was offset because this was wobbling around a little bit. So we think we've got it round the right way now. So yeah, I think we're good. Oh, and the other thing is too, because this casting isn't solid all the way up in this thing, it was actually a little bit loose at the top. Had a little bit of movement. So I had some really, really super fine panel steel that was actually on that, and I just cut a couple of little long strips, and I've bent them over in a U and just draped them over the housing, and then slipped the distributor in, and that's actually stopped it from rocking around. It's actually tight when you lift it up, put it at the top, but because the top part of the casting is sort of like only little webs, and it's actually smaller, it actually wants to make the distributor rock around. So I've put some couple of slithers of that steel in there. You know, they're long and they're sort of looped over each side. Like nobody will ever really know. You'll just see there's a little bit of metal sticking out there. So it's just to help it stop it from moving. We may have to machine it down and make a little bush or something at some point to make it better. I didn't think it was going to be an issue, but yeah, it was trying to rock the distributor around because the drive is slightly offset and the thing, so it was trying to work it. Yeah, because I was just looking at the original distributor. Yeah, so we're just comparing notes there before. Yeah, but because we did have to take a little bit off that housing. It was like I don't know, it was about 20 thou or something like off that total to make it slip in there, and it is tight. But yeah, because there's no casting up near the top of it where it goes into the body, like it's sort of like got casting here, and then it sort of goes into a more like ribs and bits and pieces up here. So yeah, that was just making it wander. So I think I've fixed that issue. We can run it and test it and see if it's going to work. Alright, we'll catch you later on. Righty, so I've got a couple minor issues trying to get this thing running. Mainly we got a very minor fuel leak around here. We had a carburetor issue too, but we should have that sorted now. We just have to get everything back together to test. The float was sticking, so we fixed that. So yeah, we're just going to put everything back on once we get the vacuum tank sealed up. Must have, because I tested it ages ago, and made sure we checked it with a vacuum source. But I think what's happened is when we've been mucking around with the lines and putting everything on, it may have this fitting may have been weak, and when we've tightened it up, it's just might have broken the solder fitting. But we've also, some of the old fittings are we thought they were okay, but we've got a tap that's just not holding tight. So we're trying to see if we can find a better either nut or fitting or something to screw back into the bottom, and whatever. We're trying to work a fix, so at least we can crank it up and running, and then we maybe can we can get some better fittings later on. But we just want to try and get it up and running so we can test it, make sure everything's okay. We have got a couple slight water leaks, weeps. Hoping maybe with a run they'll come right. The Welsh plug in the front of the block has got a very, very little, it's got a very small weep. They're all new, but maybe, I don't know, we didn't put them in, so maybe, I don't know, maybe with a couple of heat cycles it might settle itself down. And in behind here there's a big copper gasket plate, like a multi-layer, like a gasket. So there's a gasket and then there's copper plate, and then this here pulls up against it, but it's only held on with these two nuts or two bolts. That's sort of sandwiched in there, and that's got a very light weep too. So we may have to possibly at some point before we fill it with full antifreeze, pull that off and make something better and try and get it to stop weeping. But we'll still run it in the meantime. At least we can check everything and make sure everything's working properly. So yeah, that's a couple of little minor issues at the moment. So I've had that apart, fixed that. So yeah, we're just going to fix the fix this. So we're going to sweat that fitting out, clean everything up, re-tin it, put some solder in there and sweat it back in. I've rinsed this, I've flushed this out with water, so we should be fine. We'll see what happens, but we'll get into it, because yeah, we need to try and get it done today if we can. We don't really want to run it tomorrow, because I want to go back into the Dodge if we can. So we'll carry on. Right, how you going, guys? So I just shot back down and thrown a 6-volt battery charger on the old girl. Just lift the battery a little bit. It's shown about touch over 6 volts. Guessing it should be somewhere, it's like most batteries, you know, 12-volt batteries. When we've shown about 13, 14 volts. When it's fully charged, I'm guessing there should be somewhere about 7, maybe 8, I'm guessing. I'm not 100% sure, I'm not really familiar with 6-volt stuff. But so we've got a few little issues that we're trying to sort. One, we've worked out that the distributor spins the other way to what we thought. It spins counterclockwise. So we're going to swap the plug of wires around in the morning. I'm going to build a crank handle, because we're going to try and now retime it, make sure that we're in the ballpark. We've got to sort the carburetor at some point. The needle and seat's not shutting off fuel, so we'll have to sort that at some stage. But we'll fill the bowl, switch the fuel off, and see if it'll fire up and run. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to build because Dad's not going to be back here until mid-morning, because he's got a couple other things he needs to do first thing. So I'm going to build a cranking handle. I'll try and get it timed back up. I'll get the plug wires around the right way, so we've got the rotation wrong. That's no biggie. And then yeah, I'll try and sort out maybe a couple other things before then as well. But he gets here. Oh, yeah, we've got some more oil coming for the diff. We only had a litre. For some reason our numbers got muddled up in some paperwork that we had that gave us the quantities. Not sure how much it'll take, but we're going to get a few extra litres. I think I might have said this earlier in the day. It's about 7 o'clock. I just shot back down here because I had to grab the 6-volt charger from Dad at home. So yeah, I'm just down here for a couple of minutes to sort a couple of things out, put that on charge and get it boost up overnight. But yeah, so we've got a couple of minor water leaks, but we think they might be actually taking out. still minor one there. Hopefully when it gets running, otherwise we might have to take that little side plate off the motor. You can see that black side plate there. It's got like a gasket and then a big copper shim plate that's held on by nuts on those on the bolt things that are in there that holds the carburetor linkage, and then that black plate goes atop and there's more nuts to sandwich it all on. But yeah, it's weeping around there a little bit. We're not worried about it. Something we can fix later on. We can still at least get it up and running. So we know we've got good oil pressure. You know, most things seem to be okay. Like radiator is holding water and any leaks there. And we've got a wet there. We've got a wet round frost plug around the front, which we hope will take up. We've got to get timed properly. We've got to get plug wires around the right way. At some point we'll fix the carburetor. We'll have to take that off and maybe get somebody to make a new needle and seat or modify or something. Yeah, we'll have to go back through that. It's just unfortunate. It's just not sealing. So yeah, apart from that, hopefully in the morning we can get it fired up, because we were having intermittent power issues to the distributor too, as well, and we've got a 12 volt core, unfortunately. We realised the owner asked for a 6 volt core, but we haven't. It's one of those things you sort of get given, you take the core out and put it on, and then we've realised it's 12 volt. We don't know if that's causing us an issue or not either, but we'll figure that one out tomorrow. But we have got a jump pack there, so we can put it on, boost it to 12 if we need to. If that just helps to fire it up. And it probably a 12 volt condenser in the distributor as well. We don't know if that'll make any issues either, but we'll fire it up anyway on 12 volts if we have to. Starter seems to be good. It turns it over fine, plenty strong, like the motor's new and tight. It seems to be winding over pretty good. So yeah, I think once we get these couple of things sorted out, hopefully tomorrow, probably apart from the carburetor, but we should be able to still fire it up. At least let it run until the carburetor runs dry. Unless then we'll know we're right. So, and we can probably put the gearbox through put it in gear and run the gearbox and run the diff and just make sure that everything's sounds okay and not making any stupid noises, just running in mid-air. And then once we get a few other things sorted, we can hopefully, it won't take too long to get the carburetor sorted and we can put that on. We might actually be able to take it for a trundle around out through the paddock, field, whatever you want to call it, just to give it a bit of a run with the fresh motor, because we can't run it on the road because we haven't got good tyres, and it's not registered here in New Zealand. It's got to go through all that yet, but at least we can trundle it around this. It's like 80 acres, so if we run the fence line, it's plenty of room to turn around and just keep it trundling along it. Even in first gear, second gear, just toot it along at 20 miles an hour, type thing. It won't matter as long as it's getting a halfway reasonable workout cruising around here in first or second gear. It'll be enough to give the motor a half decent run. We could trundle around there for a couple of hours if we really wanted to, or he could, or whatever, just to break in a bit and make sure everything else is working properly. Make sure give the brakes a bit of a beat in, sort of type thing, so we can readjust them and all that sort of shit. Anyway, we'll catch you tomorrow. I'll get out of here and go watch a bit of Brent from Halfass, I think, and yeah, we'll see you in the morning. See if we can get this old girl to fire up. Right, morning guys. So, welcome to day 2 working on the old Studi, trying to get it running. So yeah, as I said yesterday, we're having a few little issues. So the first thing we need to do, because we're going to have to retime it, because we've got a rotation the distributor runs opposite to what we thought. We need to make a crank handle so we can turn it over easier to get back to top dead center, because the timing marks are actually on a flywheel. There's like a window in the bell housing, and it's a little bit awkward to see, and it's when you're just hitting the starter to try and get it around the right place, it's a bit awkward. We don't have a crank handle for that, so that's the first thing I'm going to do this morning is make a crank handle. Found a bit of pipe yesterday. I'm not really sure what it was off, but it's been chromed at some point, so I don't know whether it was a hydraulic ram or something. I don't think it was a hydraulic ram, but it's been chromed at some point, so it's been used for something, but it's been chopped up several times. So we're going to make the base of the crank handle for that to go into the front of the crank with we'll have to cut some slots in here, get that in, then we'll get a good length to come out here, because there's not a lot of room. So this will go in here. Obviously we'll have to cut a couple of slots in it, so we'll go back in a bit deeper, and then we'll cut it off and we'll put a handle in here so we can wind her over. So yeah, that's terribly unstraight, it's not perfect, but we'll work out. We'll cut some slots in here, we'll see if we can get that to fit in nice, and then we'll get a measure out here. Want a wee bit of distance out here, but it doesn't need to be a lot, so you want as much room for your hand as possible. So we'll make that, because Dad's not going to be here until mid-morning. So you'll get this made. I'll see if I can get it timed up. I'll see if I can get the leads around the right way. It's only a matter of pulling them off and shuffling them around. And we've got the battery juicing up from last night. I just put the gauge on it. It's still only about 6.5, a bit over 6.5 volts. So it was down about 6.2 yesterday. So maybe it doesn't come up as high as we thought. Because we've had it for quite a while. And that is only a low amp charger when it's on 6 volts. So don't know how fast it's charging it up either, but maybe it's only been on overnight, so it's been about 7 or 8 hours, I guess. Maybe a little longer than that. But since about since about 7:30 last night. So yeah, well no, it's about 12 hours. So yeah, but it was sitting underneath the bench there for quite a while, probably close to 12 months anyway. And I did use it a couple of times just to test lights and whatever, but yeah, we thought it might have been about 7.5 volts fully charged, so it may come up yet, but I'll just leave it on until I've got this made, and we'll frick around with the timing and whatever, and then hopefully by that stage Dad's here, so I'll start cutting some slots in here. I'm not sure how wide those dogs are. Yeah, it looks like they're about 3/8 or 10 mil wide, so we'll cut a decent slot in there. We'll test fit it a couple of times. Before it won't take too long. We'll just cut it in there with a grinder, and once I'm happy with that engagement, then we can work out the rest of Right, so we've got this piece roughed out. We may have to cut a slot one way. I'm not sure because it's a bit weird. That front, I got a sneaking suspicion I actually mentioned it before, but just didn't think about it. Thinking that maybe there was some sort of engagement in the front here for this piece here. For the crank, because it does say in the book you can crank start the old girls, but it doesn't really go into detail. Let's see, where to put the lever and to, pull clockwise and whatever. So this is the original crank handle. So it doesn't really show much apart from anything, apart from that's what it looked like. But we can actually turn this and it doesn't do anything. And we wondered maybe if there was need to push it in a little bit to engage, like in a ratchet type system. Like I know some of them had they would just sit there and flop around until you actually went to wind it, and then it would actually click in. But we don't know. I don't know enough about this thing in the motor wise, if you know what I mean. We never had the front off it because it had already been rebuilt. But we don't know whether something was damaged in there and they haven't, when they've rebuilt the motor, they haven't repaired that. Don't know. So I'm going to carry on making the handle anyway. I've actually sent a message to the guy in Australia, but it's early in the morning, so he mightn't be up and out of bed yet. But I'm going to carry on making this. I'm going to weld this on here, and then I'm going to find a bolt or something like that I can put out here and slip a bit of tube over it so you can grab it, and it turns, the handle actually holds within your hand and the inner spins, just to make it easier if we do work out what to do there, because we'd like to be able to use this to time it, like I said. So I'll carry on here with this welded on, and then I'll make a handle piece and weld that on, and at least then we've got it if we can work out is what's meant to actually happen. So maybe we're missing something, I don't know, but maybe there's something not right in the front of that motor, and that because it's been worn out and broken, I thought, well, it's got to start a motor, we won't worry about repairing it, but that could be a bit of a pain in the ass in the future. But yeah, because if you ever have a flat battery, at least you can, you can flick it over, and as long as enough juice in the battery to get enough spark, well, at least then it might charge itself and whatever, you know what I mean. But if you happen to left the lights on or something like that, you might be just enough to fire it up, but not turn it over by by the electric start, if you know what I mean. So we'll fix this, we'll make this, and we'll look into that later on. Right, so there's the hand crank handle made. So it's got a bit of tube on there. I found an old bolt. We'll clean this up a bit better later on and paint it. But unfortunately, like we said earlier, it goes through the motions. It's actually turning the front of the output shaft piece that's meant to be attached to the crank, but it's not attached to the crank. Why, we don't know. Which is an absolute pain in the ass, because we really want to spin this over and check the timing marks in here. So if you watched quite a lot of videos ago when we were mucking around with this motor, because the head had never been pulled down properly, and we found a few little issues that we sorted, and then we had to put the clutch and the flywheel and everything on it. And we realised that the time marks were actually on the crank, on the flywheel. It's a big, heavy, old, deep cast flywheel. So yeah, the marks are on there, and we were hoping that if we made a crank handle, we could turn the motor over by hand. Not trying to fire it up, but at least turn it over by hand and find those timing marks easier than trying to bump it over. Yeah, because we can't really pull on here and do it, because the belt just slips. It's sort of like, this is an accessory drive which is driven through a chain or a gear mechanism. So this is just, just to spin the fan. That's all it does. It doesn't, there's no real load on it. So as long as it's, we can tweak the tension on a little bit, but basically all it does is spin the fan. So it's only cooling, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Just give her another whir over. 3 weeks back.
Right, so I haven't got any little, little jumper leads just to bypass the ignition switch. It's a pretty simple thing, but we're just wondering maybe we're getting a bad current to the coil or something like that, because we're getting very, very weak spark. So we're just going to, I haven't got a little light leads with alligator clips on it, so Dad's going to go grab one, so we can bypass the ignition switch, just go direct to the battery, just to see if it'll fire, and go from there. So we think we've got the timing right now and the plug leads ran the right way. We weren't 100% sure on that, but yeah, we think we've got that sorted now. I can't remember if I've told you this or not, we've got the crank handle sorted. So this now, it was stuck. It actually pushes in and engages. So we've got that sorted. So yeah, now we can hand crank it if needed. So it's cool, yeah, because we used it to get the timing. It tells you when it's on, top dead centre for each cylinder on the flywheel. So that's really handy. And we just double checked it with the took the side plate off for the valves. So we just double checked that we were right, make sure that everything was tickety boo. Because I think pretty sure the flywheel only goes on one way too, like the bolts are offset, so it can only go one way. We just double checked that just in case. But that's what we think. Pretty sure that's what the deal was when we put it on. So we just double checked that just in case. So yeah. So we had the distributor, or the way it's sitting in there anyway, it was 180 out from where it was pointing to when we actually had it on top dead centre. Plus we had the firing order running around the cap the wrong way. So we fixed that. So yeah, that wasn't helping. So yeah, we're just going to jump coil to battery and just see if that fixes our issue of our weak spark, and then we'll have another go, see if we can fire it up. But yeah, and also we don't know if the amp gauges works. We're not 100% sure. And the other weird thing is, I thought that the fluid disappeared out of here, but it's now risen back up to 0. But we've got about, I don't know, 3.5 gallons of fuel in the back. So yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there, because I put it in there and it sat on the 0 when I filled it up. I put it just so it was very slightly below 0. So I thought, well, if it's very slightly below 0, when you hit 0, you've always got a little bit left in your tank. But now it's, I don't know, we'll find out when we fill it up. If it comes up to, like half a tank or a third of a tank, well, we know it's working, but for some weird reason it changed its position. So maybe, I don't know, at some point, if we get adventurous, we might better pull it out and put some more of that fluid in. It's a bit weird. Don't really know. But yeah, it has risen, so from the depths, because it disappeared completely. So that's a good sign. I didn't completely screw up the second time when I fixed it. It just, for some weird reason, disappeared. So whether I don't know, when it sat in there for about a week, and then I noticed a few weeks later that it had disappeared off the glass, and I thought it must have leaked out, but no, it hadn't leaked out. It's it just disappeared. It must have dropped for some reason. It was weird. So probably what I needed to do was take it back out and top it back up. But yeah, it's one of those weird things. But anyway, hopefully we'll have this whole grill fired up shortly. And it's a real pain in the ass. I think this jump pack is like got a smart thing in it. And because this is only 6 volts, you've got to kind of cheat the system to make it fire into 12. And it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So you could actually hit the starter switch and then flick the pack on. So it's, otherwise it won't send you the current. It's a pain in the ass because it's not 12 volts. But anyway, so yeah, to be honest, another battery would be handier than that. But yeah, I actually didn't think it would make much difference, but it doesn't seem to like it. That's all right. It's still handy enough there, sitting there. But yeah, hopefully we can get it to fire up shortly. Yeah, anyway, I might do a little bit more tidy up on my crank handle. And since we found out that it pushes in, it was too short, so I had to stretch it about almost half an inch, just so it cleared. I could get my finger in here. I can barely get my finger in here, if you know what I mean. So it's not scraping when it's pushed in. And we offset the handle a little bit.
Push turn on. Go again. Might get a few. No, she's got fuel there. Yeah.
At least it's trying.
Aye.
So at least it's trying.
Yeah.
That's a positive sign. I'll just check that time again.
Bloody spark. Yep. Chuck on. Push it up, weave it. Alright. Was it all the same years?
Yeah, it was all the same years, yeah. I think. Yeah, because we ended up changing the whole lot.
The whole lot of the years into another housing.
Yeah. Bananas in there. Couple bananas in there. I don't know. So it runs good.
And the fuel seems to have stopped leaking.
Alright.
But you need to get that swapped.
Adjust it.
You know, take it off. And then screw that with the screws.
Well, it runs. It runs. Three-bar oil pressure. She runs. Alrighty guys, so I thought I'd better give you a quick rundown on the Studebaker running and any issues we've got. So basically, everything went pretty well. We had a few teething issues, obviously. Our carburetor flooded. We had had to solder the tank up for the vacuum. We had a couple of little issues there. We had timing issues. We had obviously a couple of little wall leaks and water leaks. I think we got them sorted. We're not 100% sure. Time will tell. Another thing I mentioned partway through or we were talking about partway through when we had it first running, the gearbox was quite noisy. It was trying to self-run, but we're thinking what the reason was for that, because the gear set and it's not from that box. And if you go back through the videos when we were trying to build a gearbox, we found the original gears that were in this box were pretty worn, especially the main drive gear. So yeah, we swapped another set of gears out of a different box into it, from a cast iron box to an aluminium box housing. The gear sets were basically identical. There was a few variances in them. It was just slightly the way that they'd been manufactured was a little bit different. Obviously, slightly later box, but everything appeared to be the same and fitted the same. But those gears were really, really heavily soiled and dirty, and had quite a lot of surface rust on them. So I spent a lot of time cleaning them up, and I think maybe that was why they were a bit noisy for a start off, as everything was running. Just the drag from the clutch and whatever. Yeah, I think that's what was going on there. I think they eventually bedded themselves in after we had it running a few times, and they quietened down because it was quite noisy for a start off. You can actually hear it in the parts of the video that we've got up in this video. But yeah, so apart from that, we think we're okay. We've got the charging system, we think, sorted. We just need to get a cut-off switch for the generator. The generator seems to work fine. I think I covered that in the video too. This is a couple of days later. I forgot to do an ending. So apart from that, once we get a few of those things sorted, hopefully we can actually get it back down its wheels. We've got to get the last oil in the diff. We haven't quite got that yet. And then we will take it for a trundle around the grounds here at the field paddock, whatever you want to call it. We call them paddocks. The fields or whatever. It's an 80-acre field with a driveway in the middle of the house, so the only fences is the driveway in the house, basically, and the boundary. So yeah, we could quite happily cruise around here for a while and try and just run it in and make sure everything's okay. We can't run it on the road yet. So yeah, hopefully we'll be doing that shortly. So yeah, apart from that, we know the amp gauge works. I think the fuel gauge is working, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So yeah, we won't have a speedo for a start off because we don't have a speedo cable yet. But apart from that, everything else appears to be good. Yeah, and we just have to work through any minor little teething issues. We may have to get the needle and seat sorted on the carburetor if we have any more issues. Yeah, but the starter seems good. We had a leaking spark plug. They've actually two things. They've got like a big huge base, and then the top part, and you can actually, that can come loose from the bottom. So we had to tighten that up. We didn't realise, we had the bottom part tight, but didn't realise the top part of the plug was loose. You can actually hear it when we first cranked it up. It took us a wee while to figure out what that was. So yeah, we fixed that, and just little teething issues basically. But apart from that, we're really good. So yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the car show videos. So I've done the car show videos over the weekend and the car cruise run. But yeah, also there is the Burton Row coming up this weekend, the Burton Row Challenge, which is a big, I think it's about 3 or 4 day thing. They have lots of different events for bikes, street racing and drag racing and motocross and all sorts of things, beach racing. So yeah, there's lots of that sort of stuff. So if I get a chance to go watch any of that, I might try and do some short videos if I can. And there's also a national vintage bike rally, which sort of started at the weekend. I haven't seen any bikes around yet, but it's I'm not sure where they're going either. But if I can't see a big group of them parked up somewhere, I might try and do some footage on that as well, if I can. At least it's a bit cooler this week, because the last couple of weeks have just been horrendously hot. Way hotter than we've ever had. Actually, on Friday night and Saturday, when I was trying to edit footage, the computer actually shut down because it was overheating. It was that freaking hot. It was on Saturday night. It was still like 32 degrees C, which is mid 80s Fahrenheit, mid to late 80s Fahrenheit. At about 10 o'clock at night, it was just stifling, which is not normal here. But normally would drop back down into, if we had a really hot day like that, it might it would normally drop back down into the mid-20s or cooler, but it didn't do that until like sort of 4 or 5 in the morning when it actually finally cooled down. But that was stinking hot. So luckily we've actually got a bit of cloud cover and had a bit of rain since then, so it's cooled down a bit. So yeah. But anyway, I'm hoping this guy will turn up to clean his freaking motor shortly, because I've got it all sorted here for him. We'll just have to, the tools will have to drag it out in this pallet trolley funny thing, because the ground's not very level at the doorway. But I've got it all sorted there. I think I've got the water sorted, because that's new pump and tanks and everything, and I don't think it's ever been run properly, if you know what I mean. So I've just been playing with that, so now I'm going to go do some welding, get back into that, finish that front fender, mudguard, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'm hoping, because I've fucked around with that, that he turns up to clean it up, because it's taken me a good hour or so or more screwing around trying to get that all sorted where I could have been actually working on his car, you know, if I know he wasn't going to turn up. But we'll find out, I guess. I'll be pissed if he doesn't, because yeah, it was a prick to get that motor on that thing, because I just can't. You know, it's like those engine cranes where the legs are always too long and you haven't got enough reach. They almost need like a big counterweight on the back of them with a bit more extension. You know, like another 4 or 2 of extension with a big counterweights in the back would be fucking marvellous sometimes. But yeah, because it's awkward to try and get something to put them on something. Put them, say put them on a pallet or something like that so you can move them, which was kind of what I was trying to do, but on this trolley. But yeah, anyway, so thanks for watching. Please like and share, and we'll see you in the next video, which will be back on this Dodge stuff. So I'll throw this video up tonight, and yeah, you should be seeing it soon. And yeah, I'll jump back in time when I go back to this Dodge video that I'm being in the middle of now. So well, see you then. Cheers.
Welcome to Iron Outlaws. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this.